We are joined by the driver of the number 9 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, Corey Lajoie. We will go straight to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll get a wireless microphone to you. I'm going to start up here with Bob.
Bob Packers, Fox Sports. How have you been sleeping?
Like a baby, Bob. Because it's weird, man. It's like the dream is like during the day right now. You get the call from, I missed the call from Mr. Hendrick, so he left me a voicemail. I woke up to it on Wednesday morning. I told the wife, I was like, honey, I missed the call. Luckily, he answered when I called him back on Wednesday morning, and since then it's been drinking out of a fire hose of just information and preparation and just a level of perfection those guys expect is really cool to see for the first 3-4 days leading up here to St. Louis.
Additional questions? We'll go over here to Reed and then Lee.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Do you think the letter you wrote 3 years ago had anything to do with the call you got, or?
No. I mean, it didn't hurt, and time is a flat circle apparently, right? But I'm glad that call didn't come a couple months after that letter, because I wouldn't have been ready for it. I wouldn't have been ready for the opportunity. My maturation level, my skills behind the wheel. It's taken 6 years of grinding and stacking pennies to feel confident enough to be able to plug into this 9 car and run it to its true potential. So. It's been a wild week, and I can get all sentimental and all the stuff that's attached to the letter, and my dad subbing in for Ricky Craven in '98 and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, when I sit in that thing, I don't know Napa's on it or the 9 cars, number 9's on it. I'm gonna drive it like I have been driving the 7 car and putting that thing 19th in points. It's been a super fun, successful year so far, and we have a lot of work left to do and things to accomplish over there. But for the opportunity to drive for Mr. Hendrick is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Go to Lee and then Dave.
Lee Spencer, CatchFence.com. I'm kind of curious, can you share what Rick said to you, what he said on the message? Just.
Yeah. So it was just like, hey, Corey, it's Rick Hendrick here. Just wanted to let you know that, I'm excited that you're filling in under these circumstances. Appreciate the help, and I know you're going to do us a good job. I was thinking about this, and, there's a couple young people in here that might be playing NASCAR video games growing up. Like the NASCAR, 2004, 2005, I feel like you would start your career mode in like the bottom team, and then you'd like get the call up for the next team and the next team. And then you get a notification on your phone from like Rick Hendrick to drive that car, and like you run your career mode. Like that's what I felt like laying in bed on Wednesday morning talking to the wife. I was like, my life is a video game right now. It's just like nonstop progression and failure and just falling short time and time again, but keep taking like steps forward to the goal of getting to the position that I am right now. So it's been wild.
So you look at your phone, does it say Mr. H?
No, I didn't have his number saved.
So you're listening and you hear, hey, Corey, it's Rick Hendrick.
Yeah.
I mean, just to hear it's Rick Hendrick.
Yeah, so, Tuesday night, Dickerson was the one that called me and said, hey, well, he texted me at about noon on Tuesday, like, if this happens, you're going to fill in. And I was like, are you punking me? Don't punk me right now. And he's like, no, it's happening. So he called me. I was actually downtown at NASCAR, like recording the podcast, and Jeff calls me and says, hey, it's happening. Get with Alan, get the seats, get the whole thing, and like you get this. There was a lot of like self-doubt that crept in that night of just like, can you do it? Like this is like put up or shut up, right? And you're wrestling around and you're like wrestling these emotions of like scared and nervous, and then you wake up on Wednesday morning, you go to the shop, and you walk in there for the first 5 minutes, and you realize like just the collective focus of that group of like what their goal is to win races and championships, and it is palpable you can walk through the lobby and you can tell why they're so successful. So after the more in time I spent in there, I got there at about 7:15 on Wednesday. Spent about an hour and a half with Alan and his engineers and walked through the shop, and then about after 8:30 we went to the simulator, spent some time there, and just started looking at how those guys, obviously the difference in setups was interesting to drive and feel out and see how William, just the tendencies of how those guys drive, of braking techniques and steering wheel angle and things like that, was something that I've never had access to. So it was good for me to have kind of a high watermark to just try to go chase and try to hone how I attacked this racetrack and how I changed how I attacked this racetrack by just looking at how other guys did. So I can see how I left with much more confidence Wednesday of seeing the process and just the system that those guys have, that you could plug in somebody with good talent, and then that's how they become great in those, like, in the process with those tools and resources, become, those guys build champions for a reason, because they can extract the very best, and then even more so. So it's pretty impressive to see. And man, I've been here 3 days, right? And I'm going to be my philosophy of how I approach a weekend, how I prepare, how I am going to engage with my team at Spire going forward is going to change. And I think I'm going to be able to come in there and just apply and share some of the things I've learned over the course of the week with Sparks and Roy and the 77 team as well. And I think we're all going to be stronger for it.
You said on the podcast, and you said earlier to Reed, that you would not have been prepared for this position. What is the difference between Corey then and Corey now?
Man, a lot. Kids will do it. But just, I was watching that Netflix documentary on Conor McGregor on the way up here, and that'll fire you up for one. But he had this quick saying briefly. He's training, and he's like, the lead up before the fight with Khabib, he was mad, and he just wasn't focused, and he had like this, the chip on his shoulder was weighing him down as opposed to motivating him. And he said that, whether it was, he said, don't eat that, and then I ate it. I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock, and then you don't wake up at 6 o'clock. I'm going to go work out at this time, and you don't go work out at this time. So you string together these defeats, like these mental defeats, and then you don't feel confident that when the big challenge comes that you can rise to the occasion. So the last 6-8 months, maybe a little less than that, probably 6 months, have been like me preparing for today, just not knowing if it ever come. It would just be like getting rid of those small defeats of, if you're going to wake up at 5:30, you're waking up at 5:30, not 5:32. If you're going to work out at 7, you're getting there at 6:58, and leaning into the word, and just not making excuses or exceptions to the pursuit of the person that you want to be, not the person that you are, the person that you're striving to be. So, and then you go to Hendrick, and then you see that there's 500 people over there that have the same mentality, and it's like, okay, like that's why they're so freaking good.
We're going to go over here to the left to Dave, and then Claire and Daniel.
Dave Moody, MRN and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You've spoken to it to some degree, but when this new car came out, you expressed the hope that it would bring the middle closer to the front and the back closer to the middle. It certainly has. But after 72 hours now in the Hendrick system, can you speak a little bit now about the difference between the haves and the have-nots in this sport and how dramatic it still may or may not be?
Yeah, Dave, it's I thought that I knew what we didn't have at Spire, but I had no idea. And there's tools that those guys have that are probably intellectual property specific to Hendrick that even, some of the other teams don't have. But the biggest thing that I noticed was just the people and the attitude of just like the pursuit of perfection. So they have, all the key partner teams across all the OEMs have the same data, but they have an unbelievable way of delegating and taking and compacting and making it just digestible, whether it's for a driver, whether it's for an engineer, whether it's for a crew chief. And I think the fact that they have 4 incredibly strong teams individually raises the tide for those guys, right? Because when you're sitting in the simulator and, William Byron ran a 33.20, if you're running a 33.35 with the same setup, you got a tenth and a half in your butt and you got to go find it. And then when I go run a 33.20, William next time is going to want to run a 33.19. It's just like there's always a consistently raised watermark on the driver's end. There's always a consistently raised watermark on the crew chiefs of trying to build the best setups, the engineers trying to figure out the best strategies. So like the inter-team competition is, I think, one of the biggest things, and I think there are several teams that have that, and the healthy ones are certainly evident, but it's not like it's just the overall, like the structure. We have the same. We have a Hawkeye. We have Faro arms. We have all the things that do the same stuff that Hendrick has, but the depth of people. The collective focus of the goal and the mission is noticeable and it's evident, and it's just it's a different world. It's a different world. I texted Dickerson, and Dickerson spent a decade over there with Allen and spotting for Kyle Busch, and he's been a big somebody I've leaned on this week of just like, and also the last 6-8 months of just trying to help me learn how to be a professional. And you go over there and the entire group is just as professional as it gets. But I texted Dickerson after Wednesday, after the simulator and all the stuff. I said, I can't believe Spire and Hendrick race in the same series. Like, we are closer to a good truck team, I think, than we are. If that's what a cup team is, like, holy cow, we got a long way to go. But it's fun sometimes to carry that chip on your shoulder and try to be the ones that are beating the Goliaths, but it's definitely a cool opportunity and cool week this week to be one of the Goliaths sitting in one. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll go to Claire.
Claire Beelang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Following up a little bit, I was going to ask what Dave asked, but the side that I was wondering was how hard it would be. Of course, you're motivated when you go back after you see what's at Hendrick, but after you're back for a while, it could be difficult thinking, "Gosh, we don't have this stuff." How do you fend that off when you've seen what you're going to see this weekend?
Yeah, the only way is through, and now I think just forming a better relationship with Hendrick and probably having a better working relationship with those guys. We share motors, we share pit crews with those guys, and now that I'm going to have a good relationship with Al, and him and I have rode mountain bikes together several times, so we already had a bit of a rapport before the weekend started. And I think that I can lean on him and Andrew, the engineer, a little bit more so just because we're going to form a relationship over this week, and maybe get a little more help than we had been. And there's certain things that Spire is trying to gear up to work on, whether it's 7-post time, whether it's wind tunnel time that's coming down the pipeline from NASCAR, that there are some gains that we're going to be making over there. But I'm way past the point in my career and life of getting jealous about things that I don't have. I'm just trying to figure out solutions and how to make where I'm at the best possible way.
And real quick, as you get ready to race this one race for now, you put all your eggs in one basket and all your hopes and dreams and everything in one moment. How do you not overdo that? How do you hold yourself back?
It's a great question. I've been trying to think about that all week. And I think once you put the helmet, it's the talking and all the things that come along with that and all the interviews, like that's the noise. But the noise stops whenever you put the helmet on and you just drive it. No different than I would drive the 7 car. It's kind of an opposite scenario, but when I remember we parked, this is a couple years ago when Kenseth was driving the 6, and the 32 and the 6 were this like owners points right next to each other, and it was Matt's first week back, and he's been driving for Gibbs, right, and he's a champion and Hall of Famer and all that, and he's gets out of the car in practice and he's looking at the rundown, and he starts on the left side of the sheet and he's like working his way down, goes to the next sheet, working his way down, and it's like 31st and 32nd, it's like my buddy Flores is on the podcast with me. He's like, it's going to be like that, but just opposite. Like, you're going to work from the bottom like I'm used to, working my way up, and you're just going to keep going a couple spots higher. So hopefully that's what happens this weekend. And, it's not going to be easy. I mean, there's, a guy in the back room there, Coke 600 champion. Congrats, Ryan Blaney. And then 15, 18 other guys just like him that are capable of winning any other week. So it's going to be fun to be able to dice it up and be sitting on an equally fast horse as those guys for the first time.
We can finish up with one quick question from Daniel.
Daniel McFadden, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. You mentioned earlier your dad got a chance with Hendrick back in '98. What have your conversations been like with him this week about this opportunity? And is he here this weekend?
He's not here. He's watching the kiddos. So Levi and Jensen are at the house, and mom and dad are watching them. We talked about it on the podcast a little bit, and Dad at the Coke, I believe it was Coke 600, wrecked Dale Sr. And in the Bud 50 car. So Ryan's like, hey, at least you're not going to wreck Dale Sr. in your opportunity with Hendrick, and you're not even be able to wreck Chase Elliott because you're driving his car. So I guess that if that's your measuring stick, I think I'm going to be in pretty good shape.
All right, Corey. Well, thanks for joining us. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.